Edison kept his promise and gave me a new Zeekr. This is the 2024 Zeekr 001, facelifted and featuring a dual motor version with more power. Essentially, it's the base model, but with two motors. The two main differences I noticed between these cars are what you see now. First, the facelifted version has slightly modified bumpers. Second, it now comes with a lidar on top, but according to many sources, these features perform better in the facelift version. I'm eager to test that out and share my findings with you, along with a few more new features we found inside. Let's have a look. There's a new steering wheel with physical buttons, a slightly different display, and touch keys on the armrest. Personally, I prefer this display. It feels more user-friendly. The main display has also changed. It can now tilt, and I think its proportions are different, or maybe it's just smaller. Another difference between these two specific cars is the wheels. Here we have 19-inch wheels, while Vadim ordered 21-inch for his facelifted version. Neither car comes with air suspension, which is fine by me, since I have doubts about the reliability of air systems anyway. I didn't notice changes in the headlights. To make my comparison more accurate, I'm going to spend the rest of today in the pre-facelifted Zeekr. I took it for a spin this morning. It might just become my favorite Chinese car. We'll see if the new facelifted Zeekr with its upgraded assistance can top that. We started our journey at 8:30 a.m. It's now 13:38 according to the Chinese car's clock. I planned the route through Vinnytsia, Khmelnytsky, and to a point halfway between Ternopil. We also found a new charging station that uses the Gyo2U system, and we're aiming to reach it. Waves shows 435 kilometers to go. The car is 99% charged. We're working with a 95 kilowatt-hour lithium iron phosphate battery, and I'm curious to see if we can safely cover this distance. We'll log all the data and compare it with the previous video on the Zeekr 001 pre-facelift. If you haven't seen that one yet, I highly recommend checking it out through the link provided. We're setting off on an exciting journey today with Bukovel as our destination. So far, I've driven the first 26.5 kilometers using cruise control, set at 120 kilometers per h. I plan to keep this speed until we reach Zhytomyr. The range estimator is showing 634 kilometers, but that's based on the Chinese CLTC cycle, which is a standardized test cycle used to measure electric vehicle range. We'll switch to a dynamic calculation based on our actual usage. I don't think we'll hit 475 kilometers, but we'll track it and see. Let's give it a shot. I reckon this battery can still do 450 kilometers. Don't forget, it's a 95 kilowatt hour cruising at 120 kilometers per h. Let's hit the road. We covered 127.5 kilometers at 115 to 120 kilometers per h, recording energy consumption per 100. In the pre-facelift version, I logged 20 kilowatt hour, but this car, with 789 horsepower, showed a noticeable difference. The range estimator tells us that we will drive 360 kilometers, and we have 305 kilometers to the charging station. So I hope that we will have enough. Looking at the power and acceleration stats, here's the data. A car with a 95 kilowatt-hour lithium iron phosphate battery should go from 0 to 100 kilometers per h in 3.5 seconds, while a lighter car with a 100 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery does it in 3.3 seconds. Our version accelerates in 3.6, as you'll see on screen. I also want to mention that during my test, the pre-facelift model took over 4 seconds to reach 100 kilometers per h at 65% charge. However, this car matches the specs even with the battery discharged to 50% or at 90%. And the measurement you just saw was at 90%, and there's an extra screenshot showing the time at 50%. We're heading to Vinnytsia now. Thanks everyone for watching. Please show your support with a like. Since we're talking about acceleration, let's also discuss the brake. And this version has upgraded Brembo brakes, which I think are worth it. I was worried the car would be uncomfortable on the 21-inch wheels, but after 200 kilometers, I can say it's actually pretty comfy. We made a quick stop between Vinnytsia and Zhytomyr. As the road got rougher, the suspension had to work harder. There were some bumps, not too bad, but I realized on this Vinnytsia-Zhytomyr stretch, it's best not to use autopilot. It's better to steer manually and avoid the potholes. Surprisingly, the 21-inch wheels feel like 19S in terms of comfort. The lane-keeping assistant finally works comfortably here. As you approach the lane, the steering wheel vibrates and then levels out. The pre-facelifted Zeekr would pull the steering wheel out and turn you around, but here everything is loyal. Returning to the assistant's Zeekr Pilot, I could not turn it on for the first 100 kilometers because with one press, the ACC, Adaptive Cruise Control mode, is activated, and no matter what I did, I couldn't turn on my Zeekr Pilot. But my friends suggested that I should press 2 buttons quickly and it would start. So, LCC was activated and we were off. It even changed lanes after signaling as cars passed by and maneuvered around them. I really like this. This is what I call technological advancement. Let's see how this performs in real-life situations. But so far, it's working well. As for the pre-facelift Zeekr, I mentioned before that I didn't like how it handled autopilot or adaptive cruise control. No such issues here. It brakes smoothly, almost like a human, and accelerates without any jerks. It's also turning correctly, no collisions, no errors. All info's on the head-up display. Hands on the wheel for now. I'm impressed. One more test showed there's still room for improvement, but overall, I'm satisfied. Our first real stop. I have a meeting here at Večernici, a hotel-restaurant complex on Venetia's outskirts. We've driven 142 kilometers at speeds between 100 and 110 kilometers per h. I should note, we've been going at 110 to 105 kilometers per h, with some stops, consuming about 20.5 kilowatt hour. This car's more powerful, and in certain modes, it turns off the front motor, leaving the rear one, which is stronger and more efficient than in the pre-facelift model. 41% charge left. The display showing 209 kilometers of range left, and we need 165 kilometers to reach the next stop. So far, we've covered 371 kilometers and the battery is down to 20%. Well, we're headed to a charging station that operates through the GO2U. I booked a CCS sport charger, but someone already reserved the GBT, so it might take longer than expected. We're in Vitivci village, a great spot that's about 280 kilometers from Bukovel. The Zeekr can charge to 80 to 90% here. For EVs with a range of 320 to 330 kilometers, you can charge in Venetia and then here. Including Khmelnytskyi, the distance to Bukovel is about 320 to 330 kilometers, which is too far for my ID4 Prime. But this location works well for me. We've added exactly 20 kWh to our meter while driving at 110 to 115 kilometers per h, occasionally hitting 120. It's been sporadic driving, but we're not pushing it hard. The meter is showing that we can go another 28 kilometers, though we only have 5% charge left. Now, how far can this car go on 95% charge? It's already done 434 kilometers plus an additional 27, so this car can definitely do 450 kilometers. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm really excited about this. But there is an issue here, friends. I strongly oppose this configuration. Leave a comment with your opinion. I believe we don't need 2 CCS and GBT slots. At a station that gives out 160 kilowatts, there should be only 2 connectors. So, 80 kilovolts is okay for me. We're at 9% now, and let me tell you, friends, when Tesla kicks in, we'll get all 160 kilowatt. Charging is complete, and this car is no joke. We just made it from Kyiv to Bukovel on a single charge. It took 30 minutes to go from 5% to 90%. The charging took 30 minutes to go from 5% to 90%, though the first 4 minutes were only at 120 kilowatt, so the total was about 35 minutes. Let me know in the comments if you think I should buy this car. As always, give the video a like. Now we're off. After 3 hours and 56 minutes of driving, we're here. Let's recap. We covered 288 kilometers since the last charge, and there's 16% battery left. We started with 81%, and after the Kyiv-Bukovel trip, we had 9:32 of driving time plus 35 minutes of charging. Other stops weren't related to EV travel, so I won't count them. By the way, our car has now clocked 1,018 kilometers. The daily average consumption is 22.4 kilowatt hour, though after correction is 24.7 kilowatt hour. We're logging these numbers into the chart. I'd call this an aggressive driving style. Single lanes, lots of overtaking at speeds between 130 and 140 kilometers per h in sport mode. That's it for today. We'll continue tomorrow. 2 days in Bukovel flew by like 2 hours. Now we've got a car charged to 75%, and a big thanks to the Imperial Hotel for the free charging outlet. Their contact info is in the video description for anyone who needs it. Also, friends, many of you have mentioned the energy usage when descending from Bukovel. So today, Alexei and I are driving together. I'm heading to Slavske and he's going home to Kyiv. We agreed to meet at my hotel and drive together to Ivano-Frankivsk to track those costs for you. My range is nearly 400 kilometers, so I hadn't planned to charge. But then I got a notification from Toka and UGV that they've installed 3 new charging stations in Ivano-Frankivsk. 2 side by side as a charging hub and 1 separate. I couldn't miss the chance to show you this new charging infrastructure. A few words about Zeekr Pilot. It's perfect for me. It handles every turn, unlike the ID.4. No car I've tested has such advanced autopilot. This is probably the best Chinese car I've tested. The only thing holding me back from buying it is the charging port, as it shares the same socket for both slow and fast charging, but I think this issue will be solved soon. By the way, as you can see, Alexei's consumption is at 6.6 kW at level 12, but he warmed up the car for longer. In Ivano-Frankivsk, we'll compare costs. We've driven 85.5 kilometers and Zeekr's consumption is 19.9 kilowatt hours / 100 km. Let's check out the BYD song. On the display it shows 10.3 kW 100 km, but the app we showed earlier says 8.9 kilowatt hour, so technically the song wins. We're stopping for coffee at UPG and then Alexei heading to Kyiv, while we stop in Ivano-Frankivsk to show you 2 interesting locations. Ten kilometers from UPG, on a rough road, we arrive at a charging station operated by UGV and Greenlife. We'll visit 2 more stations operated by them, but we won't test them today. The setup is good with CCS, GBT, and CHAdeMO connectors, but the area lacks amenities. We'll travel 4 kilometers to the city center to check out a location we can call a hub. There, we'll find 2 UGV beauties, also operated by Greenlife, and 2 charging stations. We'll park and charge up a bit. We start charging. The first station uses the Toka app, and the second uses the Go2U app. Full power is 160 kilowatts. We noticed there's a canopy, which is great. My friend Anton sent me an interesting photo, now on the screen. It's a screenshot from China showing that this car can handle over 300 kilowatts. With my friend Serhiy, we could test it in Slavske. He'll send a special Eltis Meister adapter to Nova Poshta. On our way back, we'll stop at the ABB station in Rivne to see how much power the Zeekr can draw from the 320 kilowatt station with the adapter. We charged up to 90% in just 10 minutes. We've reached our destination in 4 hours. We recorded an average consumption of 14.3 kilowatt hour / 100 km for the 261 kilometers journey, including the arrival in Ivano-Frankivsk. The car has traveled 1,010 kilometers with an average consumption of 20.4 kilowatt hour / 100 km and a charge level of 62%. We are checking in and looking for an outlet. We've charged our electric car to 100%. Now, let's discuss a drawback I encountered while slow charging this EV. I parked the car at 58% charge and left it to reach 100%. The hotel provided the charging, but our battery is 95 kilowatt hour. We estimated that 1% equals 1 kilowatt hour. In the evening, I noticed the red auto charger recorded 52 kilowatt hour, but we only charged 42%. The discrepancy is significant. I couldn't capture a photo of the charger reading 52 kilowatt hour, but I have morning results. The car charged to 86% and used 35.9 kilowatt hour, which seems to indicate a loss of over 20%. Please share your thoughts on this. It's perplexing and suggests a need for a more thorough test. If you want us to perform such a test with multiple EVs on slow chargers, let me know in the comments. Regarding charging at the Sarinka Hotel, link in the video description, you'll have to decide if it's worth charging an EV there. They initially quoted 15 hryvnias per kWh, which I thought was expensive, but we had no choice. When I plugged in, security informed me of a rate of 200 hryvnias per day and 200 hryvnias per night, totaling 400 hryvnias. When I paid, they mentioned that the next charge would be at 22 hryvnias per 52 kilowatt hour. It was shocking to hear these rates, but I'm grateful for the charging opportunity. Dividing 400 hryvnias by 52 kilowatt hour shows it's relatively cheaper. Next, we'll most likely charge at the fast station in Slavsky. Now let's take a look at the car. I'm by the river and this car brought me here. The ground clearance remains unchanged at 17 centimeters, consistent with the previous model. Can we get 22-inch wheels? Yes, and we should. The car has 255 45/21 tires, which are comfortable for Ukrainian roads. Let's discuss the suspension and then head to Kyiv for further inspection. The exterior remains the same with the Zeekr. This is the same Zeekr 001 with the same optical system. It has matrix headlights like its predecessor, often referred to as the pre-facelift model. There's one hatch with 2 hidden ports, which suggests owners might soon be able to switch from European to CCS2 combo connectors. The key remains unchanged, and the park exit function is still present. By the way, it helped me a bit yesterday. The car handled uphill driving smoothly. Although I almost said this car has no flaws, there are a few. The glass is still single pane and the sound insulation could be better. The doors are not ideal either. The rest of the changes, although not many, are inside the car. Let's talk about them now. I don't like this button that opens the door. I would prefer a regular lever. Also, it's not very convenient to use these windows. They moved away from the touch buttons on the steering wheel but made the car closing touch sensitive, which I don't like. The previous audio system played very poorly, but now all versions have Yamaha. The central display has perfect Ukrainian. However, there are a few hieroglyphics in the back of the menu. Friends, now you will see a photo of the technical solution for translating the driver's dashboard. The steering wheel has changed, it's comfortable, and the touch keys have been replaced with regular ones, which is cool. This button is responsible for Zeekr Pilot, and I have no complaints about it. You can immediately turn on adaptive cruise, but the full-fledged autopilot is activated in a very unclear way. It has a comfortable landing mode and an electric steering column. I especially wanted to note the projection. It's gorgeous here, and I really liked this feature. I think the main novelty is a cool OLED display with a rotation function. Quality Ukrainian language or lighting or driving, Zeekr ID or heated seats, ventilation seats, and rear heated seats. Comfort, eco, sport, snow. I use sport, eco, and comfort in different modes, but on the highway I advise eco because the car is super powerful. Interior lighting with various themes and different lights. I also like the settings of the different recovery modes. When I was testing the pre-facelift version, I had to use strong recuperation in the city because I thought the brakes were not enough. But in this car with Brembo brakes, everything is super, and you have the impression that you are in control of the situation. All your devices are displayed in the connection menu. Why am I paying attention here? Because this is where you will be going. The machine rarely connects your device at once. You'll need to go to this sub-item and click. It's inconvenient, but might be fixed in future software versions. We all know that in the pre-facelift version there was no way to connect Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, but in this car you can already connect it through a gadget. My subscribers wrote to me, so please write in the comments whether this is true or not. Previously, we had no problems installing apps here and using the Waze, but there is one difference. We used to find this menu as a Waze app. You see, they've installed a lot of stuff here. I don't want to use all this. We can even play Angry Birds, use WhatsApp, Telegram. So, where's our Waze? It's not here. When we started it before, it opened full screen with no other info. Now, the guys have made it so that it replaces the regular navigation. What does this give us? Look at the car, the regular navigation, and now we have a perfect homepage. Waze takes 75%, then Bluetooth music, customizable menu, and I have an onboard computer. The same selector, we have induction charging. As I understand it, there is an airflow, but I have not used it, so I will try it on the way back. The armrest is quite comfortable. It includes a lot of things: a regular socket USB-C, two 60-watt ports, and two 27-watt ports. This is very cool. I checked, and smartphones charge very quickly. Of course, this car has a parking system. I checked it twice. It's nothing remarkable. It parks in a standard way. I don't think it's worth focusing on. The adjustment of the mirrors through the right pilot has not changed, but in principle you get used to it. The settings for the projection display through the right pilot are the same. As I said, it's convenient, and you get used to it quickly. And in the main menu, or rather on the main page, I found the following modes: pet mode, washing mode, and rest mode. As I understand it, in washing mode, the car is fully prepared for washing. I cancelled it, and I had already turned on the pet mode. We left our dog here. The car was closed for 45 minutes, and the climate was on all this time. I can't help but note that out of all the cars I've tested so far, this is the most comfortable for long trips. It has a high-quality lumbar support system. The steering wheel is comfortable and can be adjusted to your build and height. I haven't found a better car yet. The rear row is super commendable. It's spacious because we have a 5-meter car. It's spacious, which is great for my 7-year-old son. He stretches his legs out completely and is very comfortable. We also have a large armrest with cup holders and a small niche. I don't know what to put there, but my son finds something. We also have another display. Sorry, it's blinking because the tape hasn't been removed yet. It's not set up yet, but you can control the climate here and even switch tracks, but it's still a bit of a work in progress. How to make it brighter, I don't know, but the convenience is there. I think the developers will soon translate it. As you can see, if you're in the back, the car is huge. We have a thermal panorama without a curtain, but we can buy a gas panorama for an extra cost. How convenient is it? I don't know. Basically, it's not hot for us, and the passenger sitting in the back on the right can even adjust the recline of the front passenger seat. I don't know why, maybe for a super boss to ride behind on the right. There are a lot of air deflectors for the rear row on the right, left, and center. The 360 cameras are also impressive. They seem to be one of the best in the class. We have several modes to look around us, which will help us to leave now. I think parking this car will never be difficult for you. Our next stop will be Mukachevo. More precisely, we will return from Mukachevo and show you the losses at a public fast charging station. Thanks everyone. As always, please like and subscribe. I drove 260 kilometers to Mukachevo, which is quite a distance, and took my son to the water park. Let me share my expenses and explain why I stopped at the Oko filling station in the village of Skole. I left early with 96% charge. Now it's 46% on the dashboard, 122 kilometers from Mukachevo, and 140 more to my hotel. I drove calmly with a consumption of 15 kilowatt-hour/100 km. I couldn't record it for you, but on the way back it was 22 kilowatt-hour/100 km. We saw that I got caught in the rain, but the main thing is that I lost only 50% charge on such mountain serpentines over more than 260 kilometers. It was with this car that I truly understood the phrase Gran Turismo. And friends, if you own such an electric car, I would advise you to drive along the mountain roads of the Carpathians, even on 21-inch wheels. Of course, the roads in Lviv region are better than in Zakarpattia region, but the car performed perfectly. I noticed that the car consumes too much electricity on slow charging relative to its percentage. We had interim results showing that at 28% charge, the car consumed roughly 36 kilowatt hours. Therefore, I want to check with the help of a charging station how much the loss will be with high-speed charging. We started the charging session at 46%, added 28%, reaching 72%, and paused at this point. Guys, unfortunately, we won't see any superpower because I forgot to switch the adapter to high voltage mode. After charging at 160 kilowatts, I've gotten used to the speed, and now 92 kilowatts seems slow. At 73%, we consumed 29 kilowatt hours, which seems accurate. 29 kilowatts for 28%, not what we saw on the charger. At 73%, we consumed 29 kilowatt hours, which seems accurate. 29 kilowatts for 28%, not what we saw on the charger. Well, there is no significant difference. Thoughts? I don't even know why there is such an overrun on slow charging. Perhaps we really need to make a video, and it will turn out that some electric cars consume a lot and have large overruns on slow charging. Heading towards Lviv, then on to Kyiv. In Lviv, we will share the good news about the opening of numerous new charging stations. Two hours later, we are in Lviv. We came here on purpose. We could have taken a detour, but friends, I wanted to introduce you to a new operator that works through the operating system. They are the European operator EcoGarden. They promised to install more than 50 charging stations in Ukraine. I already know for sure that 11 charging stations are in production and 4 of them have been installed. So far, there are 3 in Lviv and 1 at the checkpoint with Poland. The village of Uriniv seems to have installed one of the very first, as I like to say, a beauty. It is an 80 kilowatt station with 2 connectors. You might say that 80 kilowatts is not enough, but for me it is sufficient. It's a pity we're not hungry yet, but we'll still have coffee in the restaurant complex, and meanwhile the car is already up to 50%. Therefore, 80 kilowatts is enough for traveling. Finally, we left with the test at a speed of 90 kilometers per hour, driving exactly 100 kilometers. We recorded a consumption of 17.6 kilowatt hour/100 km. We will soon reach the charging station in Rivne. There we will try the high voltage mode of the adapter. Guys, we are now at the Gyo2U hub, preparing the most powerful ABB station in Ukraine. Its 360 kilowatt have already started to accelerate. But somehow slowly, unfortunately, no miracle happened. We've accelerated to 94 kilowatt, and the adapter is still working in low voltage mode. We'll recharge a little bit and go on. We still have a test of 10 kilometers per hour and 130. And to make our charging process faster, we have already switched to UGV at 33%. I think it will be a little faster. We will recharge to 80% and then go on. "2,000 kilometers of travel with the Zeekr. I've arrived and I have a lot of impressions, but let's take it one by one. The consumption for 2,000 kilometers in different modes on different roads is 20.2 kilowatt hour per 100 kilometers. I think this is excellent. Now you can see a sign showing how much money I spent on this trip. This sign will be in 2 formats, with home charging and at public stations. The third plate, speed modes and costs. We analyze it. We draw conclusions about the shortcomings in those moments. We were unable to check this at the time. First, regarding the evaluation, we have already placed an order in the Profiline online store for a thickness gauge. It is available in Ukrainian and has the ability to generate reports for you. This will provide more content and make things even more interesting, but we'll cover that in the next episode. Second, the sound insulation. I don't like it. It hasn't improved, but everyone makes their own choice. Third, the sound system, Yamaha's theme. Yes, the sound has gotten better, much better, but for me, it still doesn't feel like super premium quality. And the main question is reliability. These cars are still rare on our roads, but we found one with 60,000 miles for you to check out. So, if you mention Dennis in the comments, we'll take 2 cars, put them on a lift, find experts, and try to predict whether these cars can last long without breaking down. This was Dennis. Give us a thumbs up as always, leave your comments, and see you next time. Bye-bye.